Welcome to our final day in Brazil and the beautiful city of Itajaí. The race has visited Brazil 9 times, starting with the inaugural edition in 1973-74 for a stop in Rio de Janeiro. This is the 3rd time we have visited Itajaí, and the village has been jam-packed every day with thousands of fans enjoying the sunshine, breeze, concerts and all the village activities. Today will be the start of leg 8 to Newport, Rhode Island, which will have a lot to live up to match the atmosphere of this spectacular stopover. However, it was far from a party atmosphere on the Southern Ocean leg as the fleets battled epic conditions on the previous leg 7 from Auckland, New Zealand.
We do this race for 2 reasons, the competition and the adventure. Some legs tend to highlight each of those a little bit more. This leg, the Southern Ocean in particular, is long on the adventure side.
I think it's a massive challenge, it's a great adventure, and of course it's the racing part which we really want to win this race, and is what drives us to try again and again.
You are sailing in one of the strongest oceans in terms of wave, wind, it's cold. It's hard, but you do it, you push your limit more than you never expected.
I just love that challenge, fighting against the elements and against other competitors.
I think it's very unique to race in a stretch of water so isolated, so far away from anything else in the world, and to cope with it.
I love the ocean, I love that harnessing of power and trying to do the best job you can.
Physically it's bloody hard. It's just game on every second of the leg.
You come off the helm after, the eyes stinging with the walls of water, you can't see the numbers half the time, so it's by feel a lot of the time. And at the end of that you're exhausted.
You forget about your fears, you forget about the cold. You have no choice and you push your limit.
That's why we love it, and it's that element that makes it exciting, that draws people to watch it, to view it, to follow us.
Water was very cold and 35 plus knots day after day, so it was a tough Southern Ocean for us.
This is an epic story.
To get people and characters together that especially can make each other better, when you have that great feeling that you did it with each other, that's a very powerful feeling in sports.
We do get up every day and strive to achieve, our personal goals and dreams. It's an amazing feeling.
We all have that passion. If you don't have the passion, you don't have that drive, you will not hold even one leg.
I did this race because it's a dream. You go everywhere in the world, you cross all the ocean, you met the bestseller of the world. No race so great as the Volvo Ocean race.
You will never be able to describe it by words. We're blasting here along in 40 knots of breeze, nearly on the edge, and we're sailing fast numbers, and it is fantastic. And why do we do? Because you forget the bad things, and the good memories stay with you.
once we got that news. Unfortunately, it was really hard for me personally, but for everybody on board to focus. It was at the front of everybody's mind. Every time you clip in, you think about it. Every time the boat's careening down a wave, every time, it's difficult. I mean, it's all anyone could think about, really.
Every watch I had, when I woke up, I thought about him. When I went on deck, I thought about him. When I went downstairs going to my bunk, I thought about him. It just sticks with you.
It's tough. I mean, we had what I'll call distraction of a dismasting, at the end of our leg. But had that not happened, it'd be occupying all my headspace right now. So.
I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking. And a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trick's over.
It's one of those things that you always dream of doing, and if you're lucky enough to get the chance to do a race like this, everyone should grab it. I think it isn't for everyone, but you should always challenge yourself.
It's been an understandably tough few weeks for David Witt and the Sun Hun Kai Scallywag team, processing all the emotion and thoughts about the loss of John Fisher and thinking of his family. Having decided to rejoin, it's been a race against time to get the boat ready to sail on in John's memory.
Biggest compliment I could give John is he was the best team player I've ever seen. Put everyone else first. There's a whole lot of, sort of an ethos that the Scallywags try and live by. We never give up, we look after each other. We don't have to be the best, but we do it together. And probably the most important moral of our team is loyalty. And obviously I've had a lot of time to think about it in the last 10 days, but I'm pretty much describing John Fisher. I'm not really describing the Scallywag team, I'm describing John Fisher. So for me, he was my best mate. And Sunday's going to be a little bit weird. It'll be the first time I've gone to sea without him in 12 years. But we've had time to deal with it ourselves as much as we can. But like you say, the support we've had from within the Volvo family has been amazing. I think it takes a special people to do this race, whether you're the skipper or you're the crew. And I think yesterday when the boat arrived at the dock was pretty moving sort of thing. The best thing we can do in John's memory is get on the job, get on with it on Sunday. If he was standing behind me right now, he'd be telling me to harden up, don't be soft and get on with it, and that's what we're going to do on Sunday.
Past couple of days have been super busy for us as a team. We only got out of the water a couple of days ago, and we just touched down and we're back in with the rig done. NDT got ticked off by Southern. The boat's been looked over and checked over by the guys in the boatyard and all the boat builders and stuff, so it's good to go and ready to go to Newport.
Yeah, we've not been on the boat as a race crew. We've also got Parko returning and a new team member.
It's been pretty daunting, rolling into a team obviously with a lot of history and had some pretty tough times, but the group seem amazing. The priority was to make the boat safe first and foremost, check the rig, check the hull, to make sure the boat's safe to do the next leg, which it is. It's absolutely in great shape, and Yeah, but it means I get 0 hours on the boat with the guys. But you know, we've been through a few of the manoeuvres. I know my role on board, and you know, hopefully I've done enough miles to be able to jump in and get going.
Team Sunghun Kai Scallywag remain in 5th, with Vestas 11th Hour Racing in 6th and Turn the Tide on Plastic in 7th. The battle for the podium hots up, with Team Akzo Nobel in 4th, Team Brunel in 3rd, in 2nd it's Matt Frey, and newly on top of the leaderboard, Dongfeng Race Team by just 1 point. With 4 legs remaining, the race is on for the overall win at the finish in The Hague. Well, a wonderful tribute there with Sea Fever by John Masefield, the poet. Here we are with live pictures now, 50 seconds to go. We are right in this for the start of leg 8 from here in Itajaí to Newport, Rhode Island. And I gotta say, the crowds at the Dockout on all this week have been spectacular. 40 seconds to go. Now we've got Vestas 11th Hour Racing. They are in the middle of the bunch. Matt Frey looking to try and win the pin end with 30 seconds. Matt Frey looking good. Akzo Nobel in the middle of the line, and Dongfeng all the way to the right-hand side. Charles Cordrelli there on board with him. Here they go. 20 seconds to go as they wind up for the start. $5,700 nautical miles from Itajaí in Brazil to Newport, Rhode Island. It's go for the entire fleet. There's the gun as the boats just crossed the line. Matt Frey, a super start, Turn the Tide on Plastic, excellent from them as well. Dongfeng Race Team, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, all at the front row of the start. Just a little back were Akzo Nobel and Sunghun Kai Scallywag. Okay, I'm joined by my co-commentator, Sally Barkow, previously on SCA, an Olympian, and you sailed a couple of legs on Brunel as well. What are your thoughts here? Pretty good start there for 4 of the boats, for sure.
Yeah, pretty good start. They all seem to be hitting the line almost up to full speed. I really liked where Turn the Tide placed themselves. You know, you can see a little more confidence in compared to where they had themselves on the import race, ducking the whole fleet, and now they're, you know, they have a nice gap to windward, and they just have to hold their lane. And interesting, Brunel didn't tack out sooner, I think. They knew they were in a bad spot with Matt Frey, and why not just get some clear air quicker?
Okay, fantastic start for 5 of the boats. There's pictures of Scallywag. Let's go down on the water for the very latest from Nick Bice.
Well, what a fantastic start by Matt Frey. They timed that beautifully at the bottom end of the line, and also Turn the Tide on Plastics had a very nice start as well. As I'm looking now, Team Matt Frey seem to be squeezing Akzo Nobel and Vestas 11th Hour out, so I bet they're going to be tacking very soon. But bravo, Team Matt Frey.
Nice breeze on the race course, a little bit more than forecast. What is it, 12 knots or so, Nick? And is that left looking good like we saw in the import race?
Yeah, it's a lovely 12 knots, a little bit sloppy just on the water, but it's a beautiful 12 knots in stark contrast to when we started out of here 3 years ago with no wind at all. So it's a welcome change, that one.
Yeah, Matt Frey winning that left-hand side, and we saw in the import race the left was good, slightly more current towards the left-hand side. Akzo Nobel just jammed in there a little bit, Sally.
Really tight spot for them, actually really tight spot for all 3 of the windward boats, Dongfeng, Vestas, and Akzo Nobel. It looks really like Matt Frey's controlling the whole lane position here, and it looks like Akzo's just trying to find a place to tack, but they have to actually lose some distance to have a clearing tack behind the fleet.
So they can't tack and get behind Vestas, so they're sort of putting the bow down right to get them some space. Next thing we'll see is attack from Akzo Nobel. Sally?
That's right, and they're, you know, you can see them actually going a little bit faster as they're putting the bow down because they're sailing a lower angle to the wind, but they need to gain that gauge, basically open that gap so they can put the tack in. They might, because they're going faster, they might just hold here for a little bit, wait for the shift, but they're going to have to be tacking out quite soon to have some clear air.
Well, Akzo Nobel definitely on the up and up. They've had podiums in the last 3 import races and podiums in the last 3 legs. Akzo Nobel, a great friend of the Volvo Ocean Race. They painted all of the boats, and they have a container that goes around the world with the teams just to keep spit and polish on all the boats, keeping them looking nice and fancy. And we've got pictures there of Peter Burling driving Brunel. Pete Burling, you've sailed with him. Tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously an accomplished sailor all around, but he has some incredible instincts on board, and it's been a nice change to have him on the helm the last few leg starts and import races. But he just carries this dynamic that, there's a reason why he's a winner out there, and he can carry a team with him. But I was just really impressed with he just doesn't doubt his own instincts, and that's what you need in a sailor. There's not much time to second guess yourself out there, and he's always on the ball.
There's Sung Hun Kai Scallywag now tacking on to starboard, so they are in the advantage position. Looks like they're going to cross ahead of Brunel, so we're going to just see Pete Burling there looking around the jib. He puts the bow down for what's called a duck underneath. It's not a bathroom toy, so there he goes underneath Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. All the boats heading upwind for the first windward leeward. Let's take a look at the course as they head upwind for the first lap around. So the inshore section from Itajaí, we've just seen the start. The boats will beat upwind for a first, what they call a sausage, then it's a triangle, then the boats leave at Mark 5. The wind was offshore, which made it sketchy earlier this morning, but it's switched around to a traditional sea breeze, lovely 12 knots and slightly building. Then the boats head north, and this is a sort of 3 stages. The southeast trades right here, the doldrums, that's going to be tricky, and then the northeast trade winds for the final approach to Newport, Rhode Island, the capital of sailing in America. Back to live pictures. Let's go down to Nick Bice for the very latest.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Scallywag and Brunel out to the right, who look to be in a lot more breeze than the boats to the left. There's no tidal effect, so maybe they might pull something out quite nicely.
Yeah, the two of them sort of started on the right, and then as a function of that, they've both tacked back and have gone all the way to the left-hand side by sea. And as you say, we saw in the import race a little bit more breeze on that left-hand side. You're calling it. Sorry, they're on the right-hand side, Brunel and Sung Hun Kai Scallywag. So maybe that right is looking good, unlike the import race. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a bit of tidal effect in the import race, as opposed to now we're right at the change of the tide, so we're not getting any current across the course. So that may be the difference right there.
So we're just looking at some of the wind data brought to you by Vestas Wind. Thanks very much for all of their input, and we're just calling from the race committee boat. I'm getting live updates here, and just calling for a slight left-hand shift. There we go. 038 from the northeast. Just seeing a click of left-hand shift, so that might be good for Matt Frey. Just Sally, tell us how these wind shifts work. It's a dynamic race course.
It's a very dynamic race course. And that's kind of the whole thing about sailing. You have water moving underneath you and the wind changing, and that's your power. It's not just like a running track that's going to stay the same underneath you, and you're the power. So it's as we say, the breeze is going to shift here to the left, which means any boats on the left side of the race course on that port tack are going to be more lifted to the mark. So therefore, they can sail a shorter distance to that mark. Essentially, that's what all boats are trying to do, and that's why we're seeing now Matt Frey gaining on the group.
What a beautiful picture there. All 3 boats all lined up. Matt Frey, Dongfeng Race Team, and Axo Nobel. But look at Turn the Tide. They have got the bit between their teeth, and they are just a nudge ahead of Dongfeng and Axo Nobel. On board with Matt Frey. Let's listen in. Well, they're talking about what happens when Turn the Tide on plastic tack onto starboard, because maybe Turn the Tide on plastic in the lead right here.
It looks like they might have a piece of them when they tack, but yeah, they have, I feel like, a little bit ways to go here to actually get to that mark. Okay, so they're sort of on the port hand lay line. They don't want to do any more tacks back to the right-hand side, so it's really a boat speed race from here as they go head upwind to the first windward mark. Matt Frey, I think, are going to be comfortable there. The breeze just seems to be just easing as we look down this line of boats. Less breeze to the right, more breeze closer to us. So it's not only is it the direction, but it's also the strength, Sally. That's right, the pressure up and down, and as you can see, it feels like it's a little bit lighter than it was at the beginning of the start there, and now they're looking for a little more pressure from the left, hopefully. But I don't know. I mean, I think we'll have to see how Brunel comes across. I did hear on Matt Frey that it was a lee bow now, so there is somebody gaining on the course.
And looks like sails are going up. Talk us through what's going on
so
board
this next leg is a full downwind, like we talked about before, with VMG downwind. So that'd be the A3 going up. So they have the biggest sail going up on the for the downwind leg, and they get that up nice and early. It is a little bit of drag, windage, but it's a long hoist up, and it's a full grind to get it up on the lock. And if it's not that windy, then it doesn't take away too much from the boat speed of the boat.
So Dongfeng first to get their A3 up. That is a spinnaker. And they'll put it on the halyard lock. Oh, this is going to be all on for everybody. Axo Nobel having to tack. Brunel just to windward of the whole fleet. They're on starboard. Let's listen in. Prepping for their mark rounding.
Sonny's caught in the front, Colin.
Abiela, very clear instructions to Carlo, hoistman. Now we go for the tack. Turn the tide on plastic, first attack. They're forcing Dongfeng, who also have to tack and can't clear. Matt Frey, oh, look at that. They just got a little bit extra. Matt Frey are going to squeeze it out to a lead here. Dongfeng race team tack on board with them. Charles Quadrelier changing sides. Yeah, look at the squeeze at the back of the fleet there. Axo Nobel squeezing Sung Hun Kai Scallywag, who are right in the hunt. Brunel just to windward, all going around this left-hand mark. Matt Frey lead around the first mark of the 5,700-mile leg from Itajaí to Newport, Rhode Island. Hot on their heels, Dongfeng race team, only a few meters in it. Deploy the A3s as they then head downwind. Oh, Axo Nobel, look at that. They're squeezing around and turn the tide on plastic, bearing away, ease the main a little bit. Axo Nobel trying to get around that top mark without hitting it. Francesca Klacic grinding. Here where they go for the deploy. Brunel now squeezing around in fourth place, and Sung Hun Kai Scallywag. Brunel in fifth. Sung Hun Kai Scallywag squeezing around in sixth place. They've gone very slow. They've just got to get themselves around that mark. Looks safe. Well done, Sung Hun Kai Scallywag. Deploying the A3. Off they go downwind. Behind them with speed in seventh, Vestas, 11th Hour Racing. Boy, close.
Yeah, super close, and really nice maneuvers here. You notice everybody has to take this mark to the left and no more gates, so they all have to follow each other, which makes it a little bit trickier, that ley line coming into that top mark.
Super tactical at the front. Just talk to us about what the issues were there.
Yeah, and I think that's why we saw Matt Frey being so vocal about whether they were gaining or losing on the fleet. If they were gaining, they knew they could tack in front of the fleet clear without following anybody and get around ahead, which made it tougher for everybody else behind.
What a beautiful day here in Itajaí, Brazil. The sun is shining, the breeze is out, and the two red boats right at the front of the fleet, Matt Frey and Dongfeng race team. Just listen in for a moment and then we'll go down to Nick Bice. Well, let's go down to Nick Bice. Looks very close between the front two boats. Nick, is there an overlap there? Umpires on the action.
Yeah, the umpires are right in there and they're getting as close as they can, because I tell you what, these red boats don't stop at each other. And as I talk, I can see Dongfeng just sneaking a little overlap. So Pablo Arante will be looking over his left shoulder pretty tightly. And whilst all that's going on, Turn the Tide on Plastics with Di Cafari has actually gained quite a bit on the two red boats. So it'll be interesting to see while the red boats fight it out, D may sail straight over the top.
Sally, it looks to me like Matt Frey might be at risk here for a penalty. Talk us through the tactical issues.
So they have to keep clear as the windward boat, but Dongfeng can't come in and sail to leeward of them and sail any higher than their proper course. So Matt Frey's actually pretty much in control. Their only problem is getting this jibe in. So you might just see a simo jibe, as you call it, where both boats jibe at the same time. Otherwise, Matt Frey's going to get kind of left in the dust in the bad air of Dongfeng. And unless they can continue this where they're squeezing ahead and squeezing to leeward and leading the jibe to the mark.
Wow, what a treat, what a tactical battle right from the get-go. There is only 1 point in the overall standings between Dongfeng Race Team, who are the new leaders, and Mapfre, who've been leading prior to this since the first leg into Lisbon. And it is hammer and tongs, a ding-dong battle. Fantastic to watch, love it. Here we go. Mapfre have just squeezed out, and I tell you, I think Mapfre were just squeezing down on them, being a little bit naughty there, but I don't think we've had any penalties, so yeah, now Dongfeng are having to go up to protect their wind against Turn the Tide on Plastic. Nick Bice, tell us about it.
Yeah, we've just seen Mapfre just get a little sneak out there by probably 2 boat lengths, so they're probably in a much more comfortable position. And there's not much time left on the other jibe, and it's a very long starboard jibe into this bottom mark. So they're looking good, Mapfre. We've seen Brunel jibe across now, just because they were sailing in some bad air. But I think Mapfre will just step out from this point on.
Are we likely to see Dongfeng jibe simultaneously with Mapfre and try to get on their air on the jibe in towards the bottom mark?
Yeah, I think Charles will have to be doing something here, because it won't be long before Turn the Tide on Plastics will actually take the breeze from Dongfeng as well.
Yeah, so expect to see the next move is Dongfeng Race Team jibing, and perhaps here we go, Mapfre looking like they're thinking about a jibe, but they don't want to show their cards too early, so they're going to try and do it as quietly as possible to try and get themselves into clear air. And that's the thing about tactics, Sally. You've got to think a few steps ahead. It's chest on the water.
That's right, and we're sailing with these big asymmetrical Gennikers, basically. So the bad air is quite different than if you're sailing with a symmetrical spinnaker and the bad air is coming from behind you. The bad air basically flows off the back leeward corner of the boat, and if you get stuck to leeward and behind somebody, then you're in really sucking their bad air. So they'll always want to try to keep their nose out there, just like Mapfre's come up to keep their nose a little bit clear of Dongfeng and Turn the Tide on Plastic.
Well, thanks to all our thousands of viewers who've tuned in. We love hearing from you. Tell us where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions, we'll try and answer them on Facebook, on Twitter. We've got all the social media channels covered. And we've got some exciting racing right in front of us. It's 5,700 miles. How important is this early stages? You'd think it wasn't, but seems like they don't think so.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting leg start where sometimes, you know, we've seen in the past teams throttling back because we know it's going to be a tough leg or quite tricky, different decisions right off the bat. But I really feel all the teams are pushing hard, like just as hard as they were in the import race, to get around this short course in the lead, because they know that there's not a lot of opportunity. There's some decisions to make on this leg, but if you can just squeak off to an early lead, it's going to be all the benefits.
So a slightly skewed course, actually, so it looks like it's long on starboard. That's going to benefit Mapfre because it means they don't have to jibe too soon, and it's only a short leg in. Turn the Tide on Plastic doing a lovely job of keeping right in the hunt. They're trying to hunt down the Dongfeng Race Team, and Sally, tell us about how well they've done. They were 4th in the import race. They were 4th in the leg here into Itajaí. I interviewed Dee this morning. She really seemed to have the fire in her belly for this.
Yeah, and that's really nice to hear, because I think they're, like we've said all along, they're the team that can gain the most, right? They have the least experience. If they're learning from each other and learning as a group, then they're actually going to become a much better team at the end of this race than they were from the beginning. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing them just gelling as a group and learning the details of the boat. You know, the board positions, the keeled positions, and the sail trim. Brilliant pictures of Sun Hun Kai's scallywag. It's wonderful to have them out. Difficult decision for them to decide to continue. They were all the way on the west coast of South America in Chile when they got in from the Southern Ocean. But them, their shore crew, their backers, their sponsors and supporters, David Witt took the difficult decision to sail on in memory of John Fisher, and really it is great to see them right back in the hunt here. So just behind them, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, who are getting themselves organised as well. Mapfre have jibed at the front, so we can see that on virtual right here as they head in towards the bottom mark. Dongfeng and Akzo Nobel and Turn the Tide on Plastic, all with simultaneous jibes, and Mapfre have now squeezed themselves out to a very handy 7 or 8 boat length lead. Good on them. How important is it for them to be ahead?
when there's so much time to go, 5,700 miles?
Well, I think what they did there was that they gained 3 or 4 boat lengths, and that was quite important for this short little course, not to feel that pressure of someone breathing right down your back and having to defend, as you're sailing downwind. It'll give them a chance to sort of take a deep breath, make some nice decisions up this next beat, go around the triangle and make the best first decision they can starting the leg.
Okay, so we're going to see a mark rounding next. Matt Freya leading, and we'll see them roll up their downwind sails, which help them go away from the wind, the A3 spinnaker right there. We'll see them roll that up, we'll see them put the jib up, and then they'll round the mark. Rob Greenhalgh there on the main. Blair Tuke and Tamara Etchegoyen in the middle on the grinding handles on the winch, getting the jib up. Tamara Etchegoyen, a gold medal winner from London 2012 when she won in the Elliott
match racing, yeah.
Match racing, thank you. I was there, I was watching, I was even commentating on it. I should be able to remember. Well, Brunel, look at that, coming in from the sun.
Yeah, really nice. And that might be we talked about that little bit of a left-hand shift. You come in on that longer jibe, having a chance to make some gains.
Well, this will make it interesting as they come downwind because Brunel are on starboard.
And they might have a piece of Dongfeng coming in.
Look at the crowds as Matt Frey lead around the second mark here in Itajaí. Beautiful sailing from the Spanish team. Watch out for Brunel coming in hot on starboard. I think they're going to get around Dongfeng. Brunel in second. Dongfeng race team having to give water to Brunel. Brunel in second. Dongfeng race team in third. Look how close it is. Turn the Tide on Plastic in fourth as they roll up their A3 spinnaker. Peter Burling carefully steers. Very clear instructions on board. Di Kafari turning slightly inside. We're on board with Dongfeng race team. They're in bad air. Oxygen masks appearing from the boom as they try to get some wind in their sails. Axo Nobel around in 5th place. 2 boat lengths behind them. In 6th, it's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. On board with Team Axo Nobel. Nikolai Sersted driving. Inshore driver, very famous match racer, great sailor. Just adjusting the angle of the keel right there, Sally.
That's right, they're going to use that depending on the wind. They'll probably be almost at full keel after they've rounded the mark. But they won't get there instantly because they need to build the speed of the boat.
And in 7th, it's Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Oh, exciting, great moves all around the racecourse. Brilliant to watch, entertaining. What a Sunday afternoon, love it. Let's go down to Nick Bice for the very latest.
Well, how was that from Team Brunel? They went very well down that run and had a very tight bottom mark rounding, which in saying that, Turn the Tide on Plastics had a very nice mark rounding as well, and I wouldn't be surprised that there's going to be a nice ding-dong battle between Turn the Tide on Plastics and Dongfeng in this next upwind leg.
Yeah, very good. And the boats are trying to tack towards the left, which favoured up the first beat. And it looks like Turn the Tide on Plastic might have got the jump on the 2 red boats. Right in it. Great tactics from Di Kafari and her team. Bicey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'll be looking out to hit that left-hand corner and try and pick up that little left shift that we saw in the last windward work. Yeah, Di Kafari's done very nicely there, so they'll be very happy and very proud.
Yeah, good stuff. And Breeze, give us an update on the breeze and the current on the racecourse, Nick.
Yeah, current's still very slack at the moment. It does look as though there's a breeze in the left, and if they get the left-hand shift, it's going to be better for them.
Okay, well, on board, Turn the Tide on Plastic. Di Kafari, look how little she's using the rudder. Don't want to use the rudder too much, right, Sally?
That's right, especially because you have 2 of them back there. So the more you use them, the more drag you have. And it looks like they have the boat nicely dialed in and in a nice position on Dongfeng to be able to match their speed and hopefully make some gains on the left.
Yeah, Dongfeng race team getting their A3 down. because we've done a windward leeward to the top, now to the bottom. They're heading back upwind for the second time, and then it'll be a triangle, so there'll be a jibe mark. Will they use the A3 is the question. Tactical calls on board will be fascinating. A3, explain to us the difference of the sails that they could use and the different angles they're going on the next leg.
So the next leg is a triangle, sailing at a little bit hotter angles potentially, depending on the wind shift. But I did see some masthead zeros plugged in and the A3s plugged in before the start. So we will try to figure out who's going to make a change, who's going to go for a peel. I think at the bottom of the triangle, it is a tighter angle, so they will want to be on their masthead because it's a flatter sail, and they don't need all that power to go on that BMG downwind angle. Pretty interesting here that the Turn the Tide have not dropped their A3 yet, meaning to me that they're not looking for a change.
Okay, that gives us a little insight, and Dongfeng and Mapfre have both taken down their A3 to try and reduce drag, but it may be that they're thinking of perhaps using their masthead zero on this next leg. And all of you folks watching, you can see all this stuff going on board the boat, so you can make your own choices as to who's doing the right thing. And Dongfeng now tacking onto port. Will Mapfre tack on them to try and give them some dirty wind and push them back into the fleet? The battle continues right from the off. Brunel all the way out to the right-hand side where they had such good favour on the downwind leg. Will it come good for them on the upwind leg as well? Look at that, Mapfre tacking right in the face of the Chinese team.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to give them an inch, are they? They just want to send them to the back of the fleet and try to gain as much as they can on that other red boat.
Right, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and there's 5,700 of them to come. So you want to start the way you mean to carry on. Mapfre want to try and get the single point back that currently separates them in the overall leaderboard. We have got a race on our hands with 4 legs left to go. The race up to Newport, Rhode Island. Then it's Scallywag rejoining. There's David Witt on the helm. And Nick Bice, you can see Scallywag down there. You're right next to them. Tell us how they look, and tell us how it was helping them get back on the water from the boatyard.
I mean, obviously a very difficult time for David Witt and his Scallywag crew, but a very determined crew that they were adamant that they were rejoining this race, and we in the boatyard were adamant we were going to help them do that. So we had a relatively quick turnaround. We had 36 hours with the boat. We managed to get all the servicing done, all the NDT work done, and they're starting this leg in great shape.
Explain to us NDT.
So NDT, non-destructive testing, is essentially an ultrasound to the composite works to actually see if there's any anomalies underneath what you physically see with your eyes. So, and if we pick up any anomalies, we're able to fix them prior to it becoming a much larger issue.
Now, Nick, you've been through this situation almost identically to Sung Hun Kai's Scallywag when you were on ABN AMRO 2 and you lost Hans Horowitz on the Atlantic leg into Europe. Just tell us how difficult it is to deal with that and what they're going through on Sung Hun Kai's Scallywag.
I mean, due to the unfortunate circumstances, there's now a bond between that team who are on board, and that bond will last forever. I mean, we had the same with ABN AMRO, and we have a bond with a lot of those guys that will never be broken. Very important, though, to get back out on the water. We knew Hans wanted us to get back out on the water. Whitty definitely knows Fish wants him back out on the water. So they're going to have a good time this next leg, always thinking of Fish. But the best thing is to get out there, sheet on, and go fast.
Yeah, Sally, your thoughts about this?
Yeah, for sure. They have to get back out on the water, and really big credit to the team and everybody in the boatyard to get them up and running in such a short period of time. And they need their time, and this is the best place for them to be there for each other.
Yeah, great. Well, as you say, Nick Bice said it creates a bond. My sister actually worked with ABN AMRO too. She still is very strong in her mind, memory of Hans Horowitz as well, who we remember in these circumstances where John Fisher is with Sun Hun Kai Scallywag sailing on board in his own special way. So here we go with pictures of Mapfre currently leading the fleet. out of Itajaí. Pablo Arate, the driver for all of their import races and their import sailing, a very accomplished sailor himself. They have got their new mainsail up, it looks like, and we're going to go, well, first off, Sally, tell us the story about sails that you can use before we get to the final windward mark.
Yep, so you have these two mainsails that you can swap essentially 3 times, and for sure we can rest assured that Mapfre have their new mainsail up, as you all remember in the last leg that they tore their old mainsail into 2 pieces, found a way to piece it back together and finish the leg, but this is their new one. Most teams have tactically chosen that these lighter legs into the finish of the race, they'll have their new set of sails on. So we'll see some new rags up, as we say, and the old ones are now just standby spares.
There we go. Okay, we'll go down to Nick Bice. Is everybody on their new mainsails today, Nick Bice, or there? To explain how that works.
Not everyone, not the complete fleet, but I think it's 5 of the 7 are on their second set of sails to try and eke as much speed as they possibly can out of the boats up on their way to Newport.
Yeah, the tactical call's fascinating, not only on the water but on land and choosing the sails. And big thank out to North Sails and the sail loft that goes around the world with the boats for the Volvo Ocean Race, always sticking and stitching. I don't think there's any much more stitching. There's a bit of stitching, is there?
Not so much. I think it's a lot of sticking, yeah. A lot of heavy glue sticking.
There we go. There is the final windward mark. Mapfre squeezed towards, and look at the different breeze on the racecourse. The slightly darker patches on the water, more breeze. Slightly lighter, less breeze. Around the top mark for the second time, Mapfre hold a lead of around 10 boat lengths ahead of Dongfeng race team. Deploying the A3, Mapfre lead. Oh, it's going to be very close at the top here. Dongfeng, can they get around Brunel? This is going to be close. The umpires look on the boats just behind, keeping a very close eye on it. Turn the tide on plastic, just dipping under Brunel. Dongfeng race team squeezing in ahead of Brunel for a second place. Brunel in third. Turn the tide on plastic in fourth. Around the second windward mark for the inshore section of leg 8 from Itajaí, Brazil to Newport, Rhode Island. What a treat. Great sailing. Seems to be a few issues on Dongfeng race team. Marie Ryu, they haven't deployed their A3. Let's listen in. It's a problem, the furling line's stuck. Voice of Daryl Wislang, there we go. The furling line was stuck. Seriously, shouldn't happen at this level.
Seriously.
There they go. Seem to have got it sorted now. They've all chosen those A3s again.
I think Dongfeng have gone for their change there, and that's a little bit of a trickier scenario. And they had a tack set as well. So they were just saying that that's the masthead 0 up in the air, and that's the A3 on the deck. And as they dropped the A3, that maybe got stuck on the furling line of the masthead 0, making it harder to deploy it.
Well, that's why we got you here, Sally, bringing us the expertise. Oh, listen to them on Dongfeng race team. Not happy about that at all. A crew error. Very unusual for them.
Okay, let's go tack down.
In 5th, it's Axo Nobel. In 6th, it's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag.
We're getting it down.
That is the masthead 0 on Axo Nobel as well. You can tell because the more painted, basically, Jannikers are the difference between the masthead and the A3. So there's Sun Hun Kai Scallywag deploying their A3, and you can kind of see the difference, the 2 sails there.
Well done. I seem to have. I was a bit blind to that in the import race a couple of days ago, but we seem to have figured it out. Vestas 11th Hour Racing in 7th. just starting to get the wheels under them. I think they'll be all right with this. They know that there's a lot of miles to go, and they have been extremely fast offshore. And we've got some of their special guests. Claudio Capello there on the back of Vestas 11th Hour Racing, representing ANI, sailing centre here in Itajaí for local kids. And we've got Marcelo Muller, who's the boss of Vestas here in Brazil, making energy out of wind. Very good. There's the fleet. There's the city of Itajaí, who have really embraced the race. It's been wonderful here. Cultural experience and an enthusiastic crowd. Now we can see some of the differences here between the A3 there, tightly trimmed on, and the masthead code 0 on Axo Nobel. We're in the helicopter here with Matt Connor as he just rides us up towards the front of the fleet. Dee Kafari on Turn the Tide on Plastic in 4th place. She seems to be doing a blooming nice job. Brought together a merry band of very accomplished sailors and has really moulded them into a great team. Brunel ahead. They've got their masthead 0 up, as have Dongfeng race team. Matt Frey with their A3 up. I prefer to look at the A3 right here.
Yeah, it doesn't look so bad. I think it's just wide enough of an angle, and the breeze is just kicked up. It feels like enough that they can just deal with that amount of power. Doesn't seem like a super long reach leg, and so you have to make that choice to make a peel and maybe have that little mistake that we saw in Dongfeng, or just stick with what you have on the A3 for this last little triangle and then head back upwind out of here.
So we're talking about the angle between Mark 4 and Mark 5. If it's a little tighter, it'll be better for the masthead 0. If it's a little less tight, it'll be good for the A3. So we'll see how that all works out as the boats go around Mark 4. Matt Frey leading the fleet, but they are 1 point behind Dongfeng race team in the overall standings. We've got a boat race on our hands. 4 legs to go to Newport, then Newport to Cardiff, Cardiff to Gothenburg, and then Gothenburg to The Hague. And those 2 legs, Cardiff to Gothenburg and Gothenburg to The Hague, are quite a lot shorter. So the boats will stay extremely close to each other and very tactical. A lot of tide around going around Great Britain, going through the channel. Now we can see the A3 really leaning it in there. Sally, that's the difference, right?
Yeah, you can see how much more power they're carrying on Mapfrey, and able to use more keel and essentially be faster at this angle.
Talk us through the jibe.
Here we go. They're going to have probably an outside jibe, so they're easing into it already. They want to turn the boat right around this yellow mark and not lose any distance, I believe.
Well, they're not going for the jibe straight away, so that gives us an idea that perhaps the line in to mark number 5 is a little further down than we'd previously expected. So that's going to be good for the people who are holding A3s. Less good for the people with masthead 0s, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So that's quite interesting. We'll have to see where the other boats choose to jibe. Mapfrey obviously chose to jibe on their lay line into that next mark.
Not a good jibe on Mapfrey, unusual. Being a pretty harsh critic today.
Pretty harsh critic, yeah. We might be seeing a little bit of a left shift in the breeze, making it also more interesting to sail beyond this jibe mark.
Now jibing the masthead 0 on Dongfeng. There's an outside jibe, right?
That's an outside jibe, and you see how important it is to release that old sheet, which is what we saw with Mapfrey. It got a little bit hung up, and then it has a chance to tangle a little bit, and if there's any sort of override or anything in the cockpit, then the jibe looks a little bit sloppy from the air.
Okay, well, down to the water, we've got Nick Bice, who's just next to the jibe mark. Talk us through the difference in the sails being used here and give us your perspective.
Yeah, I think the teams that strategise and use the A3 have probably gone better here. Certainly looks very soft for Team Brunel and Dongfeng to try and get down to the bottom mark with the masthead 0s. So, and as I speak, we've got Turn the Tide on Plastics jibing right behind where I am on the water. And we could see them sneak through quite nicely here. They've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, have they gone for an inside jibe? Just explain the difference. Matt Frey outside jibe, Turn the Tide on Plastic inside jibe.
Yes, so basically it means that the spinnaker sheet is either outside the front of the sail or inside the front of the sail, and it helps. In much more breeze, you do an outside jibe, but in the lighter airs, you do an inside jibe, just to help get that sail through as quick as you can.
Great tactical calls on board Turn the Tide on Plastic then. They went for the inside jibe, very nice jibe, and they were a little bit quicker than Matt Frey, who went for the outside jibe. You have to wind in more and you have to ease more sail out, right, Sally?
That's right, and yeah, you have to rely on the wind to pull the sail away from the boat to actually have a clean trim in. When you go for the inside jibe, you don't have to ease it that much, and you can just pull it through, and essentially it'll fill quicker on the new side.
Looking at Team Axo Nobel, they're on an outside jibe. You can see the new sheet around the outside, and you'll see the sail all go right around the forestay, and they have to then pull it in on the new side. A little bit of slack in there, but they're on their masthead A0. Oh well, there's a jumper. Matt Frey jumper. That is Luis Gutierrez, the CEO of Matt Frey Brazil. They're just pulling him back into the boat. And it is one of the amazing innovations of the Volvo Ocean Race, the ability to take on their most specialist guests very good English. Their special guests. And they get to jump off the back of the boat. They get to experience the race on the inshore section. Then they jump off and they get pulled up by their support boats. Mark 5 as they go around Mark 5, and then it is through gate 6, and then the final marks towards the final mark where they get rid of all the jumpers, and then the umpires stop the umpiring rules, and it's then offshore rules apply, and the boats start their long charge to Newport, Rhode Island. Matt Frey, good choice with the A3. Pablo Arati on the left. Juan Villa, the navigator, he's on the runner. So winding on the runner, ready for the upwind leg. Here they go for the furl.
Okay, right to furl.
Such clear communication on board. Don't use too many words. Get it done. Nice tight furl, Sally, that's what they're looking for. Would drop. Matt Frey sailing beautifully at Mark 5 to lead the fleet. Now Brunel with their Pieter Mondrian masthead code 0 as they jibe down, their famous Dutch artist. That's an outside jibe right there. Brunel have come back into it. They're looking fine right there, but they were, I think, ahead of Turn the Tide on Plastic actually, so Di Cafari's A3 has done a good. Great tactical calls. On board Dongfeng Race Team. Furling. Dongfeng Race Team in second. It's going to be close. There was a starboard call. Brunel on starboard. Turn the Tide on Plastic in fourth. So Turn the Tide on Plastic have to give Brunel room, but Brunel have still got their sail out. So it's going to be... And Turn the Tide on Plastic are doing all the right stuff. They have to give them room, but they don't have to give them more room than they're entitled to, right? This is going to be difficult for Brunel to get that masthead code 0 rolled up. Maybe they're not going to roll it up. Maybe they're going to keep going with it. No. That is on board Turn the Tide on Plastic. Liz Wardley, was that?
I think that was Caroline Brower asking for a bit of tack on the J1.
That, the leaving mark for the Itajaí stopover. Now it's offshore rules apply. So they can tell stories that are never again repeated. Okay, Matt Frey leading. Great sailing from them all the way around the racecourse. That's the J1.
That is the J1, yep. And you can see how nice and tidy Mapfre is. They already have the A3 down. They're already getting it packed away. The boat's going to be the fastest one in the fleet to be settled in.
Well, down on the water, we had a very close incident between Brunel, who came in on starboard and had inside room, but we're a little late on their masthead code 0. Bicey, give us your perspective.
Yeah, it was D had to do a bit of fancy work to stay out the way of Team Brunel coming down there. But what's interesting now is Team Brunel look as though they're going to stick to the masthead 0, and their J1's been packed away, and it's on the side of the boat, forming part of the stack. And you know, Bauer Beckings knows how to push these boats, and he's certainly going to push them a long way here with the masthead 0 for this next little upwind bit.
Well, a fascinating change of tactics there between all the other boats who've got their jib, their J1 jibs up, and Brunel have gone. Now watch this, how they get down the A3. On board, ease the halyard. Now they're going to be able to sail a little tighter than Brunel here.
They should with that J1, but it would have been nice to get that A3 down before and hold their boat speed around the mark. They now have to rebuild their speed, and they're probably going to fall to leeward of Brunel.
Akzo Nobel keeping their masthead code 0. So this goes back to way before that windward mark, when the navigators and the tacticians were talking about the sail that they want up after this leaving mark, and obviously Akzo Nobel want their powerful masthead code 0, and so do Brunel. But Turn the Tide on Plastic are going to be able to sail a little bit higher. This is all about the route to the next Newport.
Next Newport. Well, they'll, you know, the navigators will have their waypoints in their computer where they want to go, depending on the weather and the routing, their fastest angle to X point, and that's what they'll be trying to achieve. And then they'll be rerouting and making sure it's the right place to go.
And on virtual, you can see the difference in angle. Brunel a little lower, Turn the Tide on Plastic able to go a little higher, but with slightly less power and speed. So always a trade-off on a sailing boat. Great pictures of Sun Hung Kai Scallywag right there, as they are also on their J1, heading upwind. Windward daggerboard is up. There's the final turning mark. Thanks to Inmarsat and Cobham, who both bring us all of these amazing pictures via satellite from the boats all around the world. The Inmarsat satellites and the Cobham hardware on the back of the boats. You can see those domes at the back transmitting the wonderful pictures and video that the onboard reporters get as the boats sail around the world. Mark Towell driving on Vestas 11th Hour Racing as they go round in 7th. Well, it's been an amazing stopover here in Itajaí, Brazil. I think I've said it before, but the crowds are great, the atmosphere was wonderful, and we've got all 7 boats back in the fleet. Really lovely to see them with their trials and tribulations all back again, and the leaderboard at the top has tightened up enormously. The change of leader. We're going to go through each of the boats and just give you a little summary, and Sally's going to give us some tactical insight. Breeze from 036 or so. Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Well, they broke their mast. They were second to Cape Horn, but afterwards, Vestas 11th Hour Racing there tacking. And there we go. Look at the white helmets. 2 white helmets on the back of. Ooh, look at that. Haven't seen Nick Dana move that quickly since. Okay, at the back, 2 white helmets. Those are the jumpers. We're just going to follow them. We've got Marcelo Muller from Vestas Brazil and Claudio Capello representing ANI. The sailing centre here for local kids that do amazing work getting kids out sailing on the Itajaí Açu River and the bay outside. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, the team that never quit. They broke their rig, they went into the Falkland Islands, they found a lamppost behind one of the sheds there, and they fashioned it into a jury rig, and they managed to get some sails up on the jury rig and bring the boat all the way back to Itajaí, where they put a new rig in the boat, which they had here in Brazil. Bryce and his team doing a great job on that. Jury rig from the French Ajourie, which means to help. So they needed all the help they could get, but they are here back, and they got here a couple of days prior to Thursday, and we were able to see them and see the boatyard kick into action. And I was leaving one day at about 6 or 7 o'clock, and there were people pouring glue and fixing shrouds and spreaders and getting the rig ready and prepping the boat. So a super team effort from all of the Volvo family and the Vestas 11th Hour Racing team. And if you haven't seen the video of their experience in the Falklands, where they came in with no rig, it's well worth a watch. So we just flow over the fleet. Here we've got Matt Frey. Matt Frey currently in 2nd overall. Sally, just talk to us about the battle here. Matt Frey had been leading all the way, but a couple of not such good legs.
Yeah, they had so they had a really tough leg there with some breakages and some things that were unforeseen, you know, coming in around Cape Horn, and they did the best they could. They got things back together. It was quite important for them to get to the finish line. You know, one point, it's not a real big deal at this point in the race, because there's a long way to go, and there still is one more double points leg to be had. And I think this team just needs to stay, as we say, cool, calm, and collected, and carry on. And we just seen them travel around they won the import race, and they just, you know, this import section of the leg start, they look very, very solid. And I wouldn't be worried. They're not worried. They're just going to keep plugging away and hope things continue to go their way.
Yeah, they know there's a lot of points on at stake. The final of the really long legs to Newport, and then the Atlantic leg, the transatlantic leg from Newport to Cardiff, is a double points leg. So there's plenty of that. And if you win the leg, you get a bonus point. And they'll be looking to those very closely. Now, it looks like they're getting the stack ready. There's a team effort, if ever there was.
Heavy sails, I'll tell you that. Everybody, you know, 3, 2, 1 lift, get everybody totally, yeah, big effort there by Xavi Fernandez, the skipper, lifting the most in the middle of the boat. Those A3s are the heaviest sails, and not quite, a little bit wet, you know, from the splash on that import section of the leg start. And super important to get the stack, you know, max beam there as quickly as possible for their upwind speed.
And that counteracts the weight of wind in the sails. It means they can go faster.
That's right. That's right. It's like hiking out, basically, but you don't need to get in the straps or have your feet over the edge. You just get the weight on the rail.
Yeah, so perhaps they feel a little bit more relaxed here. Their target's sort of off their back, and they are the ones now who are stalking Dongfeng, and Dongfeng are the ones who are leading. And, well, it's been an incredible battle between these two red boats. Dongfeng race team, their 2nd go-around for the Volvo Ocean Race. The Spanish have been involved in the Volvo Ocean Race. This is their 10th attempt at winning and never have done so. Is this the time that the Spanish team can do it? Okay, well, let's move on to Dongfeng race team, the current leaders by a mere single point. And they've taken the lead now from their great performance into Itajaí, and the 5th place for Matt Frey. So let's go down to Baisi. Just tell us a little bit about the Dongfeng race team. You see them every day in the boatyard. How's the attitude and the feeling?
I mean, what a wonderful team, and a very professional team. From all their sailors to all their shore crew and their management, they're a pleasure to work with. And it doesn't surprise me that they're at the top of the leaderboard at the moment, along with Matt Frey. It was probably predicted before the race even started. And I'll tell you what, that Charles Cordelia, he knows how to make a boat go fast.
Yeah, he does. He sailed the boat. So his real strength is offshore sailing, right, Baisi?
Say again, Andy, sorry,
Charles Cordelier's real strength and the crew's strength is the offshore sailing of this race.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it gets no better than what they produce out of France, and he's some of the best. And he's got, let's not forget also, he's got a good mix of both youth and Chinese on board also. So it's a very diverse team as well.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Baisi. And it's worth noting that Stu Bannatyne is in for this leg on board Dongfeng race team, and Jeremy Bayu is out. And also Chen Jinhao is on board, also known as Horace. Super famous star now of sailing in China. He's a great guy and really enjoying the race. Let's have a look at the crew there for the Dongfeng race team. Charles Caudrelier has sailed twice. Pascal Bidegori is the navigator. Daryl Wislang, who won with Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing. Caroline Brewer. Stu Bannatyne, 3-time winner, 7-time veteran of the Volvo Ocean Race. Kevin Escoffier, Jackson Boutel, Marie Ryu, and Chen Jinhao makes up the Dongfeng race team. Here we are, just getting pictures of the two red boats as they leave. Great spectator fleet. Let's take a look at the Matt Frey. There we go, we're just on board with them. Blair Tuke at the back, Pablo Arate. Let's have a look at their team lineup. Xavi Fernandez, a 4-time veteran of the race. Juan Vila, he's also 4-time, won it way back when. Pablo Arate, Rob Greenhalgh, Willie Altadil, Nettie they call him, and Blair Tuke. Tamara Etchegorn, the gold medal winner, and Blair Tuke, two newbies to the race, but Blair Tuke has the unique perspective of having won a gold medal, the America's Cup, and can he win the Volvo Ocean Race to take the never-before-won triple crown in sailing, the 3 biggest trophies in sailing? Can he do it? Well, he's fighting. He's fighting his teammate for that gold medal with Brunel, Peter Burling. Let's go and have a little look at Brunel. There they are, Abby Ella on the windward stack there, and we'll go through their team as well. Bauer Becking, this is his 8th go. Can he win it? Andrew Cape, the navigator, Alberto Bolzan, Carlo Huisman, Carl Langford, Peter Burling, all 3 of those newbies. Abby Ella's done it twice before. You did it with Abby on SCA. Nina Curtis and Louis Balkan, a team with youth and experience on there, but they're really getting the bit between the teeth, having won the leg in here to Itajaí. They took all 16 points available to them. The double points, they got double points, which is 14. They got the bonus point for going around Cape Horn first, that makes 15, and they got the bonus point for winning the leg, that is 16. And Peter Burling won the America's Cup, won a gold medal with Blair Tuke, and he would desperately like to win the Volvo Ocean Race as he pauses his America's Cup activities to get involved in this offshore sailing. Axo Nobel, Martine Grail there at the back, massive superstar. She has been doing interviews from dawn till dusk here in Itajaí. Simeon Timpont, his 3rd go. Jules Salter, who has also won the race with Chris Nicholson, has done for 5. This is his 6th go around, and he was famously with Vestas last time around. Justin Ferris, Nikolai Sersted, who does all the inshore helming. Brad Ferrand, his mate, and if ever you get the chance to see they do daily updates from down below. How's your day going? They're like sort of husband and wife. It's rather sweet to watch their extremely amusing banter on board. The onboard reporter on Team Axo Nobel, Brian Carlin. There he is, right in the middle. There's there's Martine Grail on the right, Brian Carlin, their onboard reporter. He manages all the onboard reporters, but he's doing this leg with them. And Ireland's finest, and he knows how to pour a Guinness, that's for sure. Simeon Timpont, the skipper on the left, and he's very happy to leave the helming duties on this close tactical stuff to Nikolai Sersted. A sign of a great skipper in my view, somebody who knows where all the strengths lie throughout the team. On board with Team Axo Nobel. And Axo Nobel turn the tide on plastic next up. Turn the tide on plastic. They've got a few crew changes this time. We've got Elodie Metro is out. She's actually racing now across the Atlantic the other way. Starts, I think, in today or in a few days. Bledin Mon's out, Brian Thompson's out, but in Martin Stromberg as the watch captain, Annalisa Murphy, also from Ireland, many fans. She's an Olympic medalist. Nicholas Lundven is the navigator for Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dee Kafari, the skipper. Liz Wardley, you know well, Sally. Martin Stromberg, Henry Bombi, Lucas Chapman, Bianca Cook from New Zealand, Francesca Klapcic from Italy, and Federico Mello, and as I said, Annalisa Murphy. That is the crew lineup for Turn the Tide on Plastic, with a very strong and important environmental message. You can see it all over their sails. Do not use single plastic water bottles, folks. Use reusable. It is a great start in the mission to get plastic out of the ocean and off the land. We'll wonder in a few years how we ever did plastic water bottles. It seems so crazy now. Refills are becoming ubiquitous all over the place now. Nice to see in airports. You can go through security and then you can actually refill your water bottle at free points all around. Many airports around the world, and it's growing by the minute. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Luke Parkinson is sailing with them this time. He's in. Pete Cumming is also in, English sailor. David Witt, the skipper. Libby Greenhalgh, who stepped in some legs ago and has done a brilliant job. Luke Parkinson, Alex Goff, Annemieke Bess, Ben Piggott, Tristan Seal, Antonio Fontes, and Pete Cumming there from the UK, who's a great foiling sailor and offshore specialist. Holds the Fastnet race record and I think the transatlantic record as well. This is his first Volvo Ocean race. Great to see this team on the water, and good to see them sailing fast and hard. What's going on the front there, Sally?
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna go for their masthead zero. We saw Mapfree also hoisting that masthead zero, and Brunel are making some decent speed gains, although they're not, you know, sailing as high as the other boats, as you said before, Andy, but they're going fast through the water, so I won't be surprised to see the majority of the boats still here on Fortac going for the peel to the bigger front sail.
Maybe there's David Witt giving the crowd a bit of a wave. You can see the crew coordinating. There are the boats as they head offshore. And this is the slog, really, begins. Vestas 11th Hour Racing staying a little higher. They're looking for a bit of ballast. We'll go on board with Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Stacey Jackson. There we go. Get onto the handles. There we go. We're going for the masthead code 0.
They are. It looks like, you know, maybe there's a little bit less pressure than been forecasted, as only 1 or 2 boats carried the masthead zero around that bottom mark, and now everybody's going to go, you know, go for the peel towards it, because they know that they have a long way to go upwind, but, you know, no longer we're sailing a windward leeward course. We're going offshore, so the speed is king. You really aren't going to be sailing that close to the wind. You can sail a little bit more cracked off, a little bit faster with a little bit more sail up, and that'll get you to Newport faster.
Only one small change on board Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Normal crew rotation. Jenna Maja Hansen is out, is in, and Hannah Diamond is out for this one. Charlie Enright, the skipper, Mark Towell, Simon Fisher, who won the race previously with Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing. Tony Mutter, this is 6th Volvo Ocean Race, having won it twice. Phil Harmer also won it twice with Abu Dhabi and Group Harmer. And I was talking to somebody in St Bart's last week, and they were saying that Phil Harmer is a real speed magician. You not really know it to talk to him because he's a super nice guy, very unassuming, and but he manages to eke out those extra little tenths of a knot of boat speed to get the boat going fast. He had a bit of an injury at the beginning of the race, and then he was on for the leg to Hong Kong, where they doing very well, and also this Cape Horn leg. And we were just talking about how good he is at getting that boat going quick. I think Mark Towell's just requesting that spectator boat. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter or any of our live feeds, we've got that spectator boat just slightly out of the face of the sailors. That would be very kind, thank you. Here we go, deploying the masthead code 0. The never give up team. Back in it. New rig. Okay, let's go down to Nick Bice. Nick, give us some of your final thoughts of this amazing stopover and what was a very exciting import section of this long leg up to Newport.
Well, first of all, what a fantastic stopover. The crowds have been wonderful and very engaged crowd, and what a fantastic way to leave Itajaí. Beautiful sailing weather. We've got all the teams settling in now, got their stack set up. Most of be on the masthead zeros by the looks of things within the next 5 minutes or so, and I'd say this will almost be the setup the whole way to Newport.
Well, thanks, Bicey. Yeah, great to have you down on the water, giving us the action live and direct. And thanks to everyone at the boatyard and in the sail loft and all of their hard work over the last week or so, doing long hours getting Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Sung Hung Kai Scallywag ready. Okay, here we go, the course out of Itajaí. And the first section is avoiding a lot of the exclusion zones, a lot of oil rigs in the southeasterly trades up to the northern tip of Brazil, and then it's through the doldrums. But the further west, the smaller the doldrums, then into the northeasterly trades, and a final bump up to Newport, Rhode Island, and the Fort Adams spectator zone and the race village will be a real fun one. Okay, we can see all live pictures right down there, but we have caught up over the last week or so with the skippers for this 5,700 mile leg to Newport. Let's get their perspective.
So the next leg, leg 8, goes from Itajaí to Newport, USA.
A lot of boats are going to be, up there to win the leg, and for us from Mafre, we have to step up again and put all the strength to try to win this leg.
Itajaí, Newport, very nice leg. Crossing the doldrums again, but in the easy part normally. Very west, so usually it's not a strong doldrums. That's good because we don't like doldrums. It's completely random.
The equator crossing shouldn't be so hard because there's no doldrums more or less existing on the Brazilian coast. So on paper you can just sail straight through. Once you're at the height of Recife or just north of it, Fernando de Noronha.
And after that, normally you get some good trade winds all along the Caribbean islands.
The breeze probably will increase because the northeast trades are at that time of the year a little stronger. And we're reaching up direction Bermuda, just past Bermuda, and then we're in the hands of the weather gods if there's coming a depression, or we just reach all the way into Newport. But we just know the last 1.5 days into Newport, the water is getting cold.
It's pretty cold, once you get north of the Gulf Stream, cold water, cold seas. Can be some pretty vicious storms, this time of year, but it can also be very sunny and very pleasant.
Memories of this leg from the last edition involve days and days of going through the Sargasso Sea, lumps of weed, having to heel the boat over and clear sail drives and keels and rudders, and you're convinced you're the only boat that's having to deal with this, and then you get to Newport and find out that everyone was doing the same.
I love Newport. It's not only that it's a sailing destination, but there's so much heritage with the America's Cup being there for so many years, and of course all the local population know what the race is about, and it's a fantastic setup. The last race I think was one of the best stopovers we had as well.
Well, as a result of the last leg from Auckland, we have a new leader by a mere 1 point. It is the Dongfeng race team. Let's get a quick catch up with how the team's doing. Dongfeng race team are back for a second time after finishing third in the last edition. Skipper Charles Caudrelier has set his sights on nothing less than victory. Since the start of the race 7 months ago, they've consistently featured at the top of the pack, setting a blistering pace, although they've failed to maintain the lead all the way to the finish, and a leg win still eludes them.
Yes, it's amazing that we never win a leg since the start. We have many opportunities and we failed. And of course, winning a leg is the best thing. It's give you a big boost, and we really want it. But actually, as I say, the most important is to have a steady result. If you're always on the podium at the end of the Volvo Ocean race, you can win even without winning a leg. I think if we continue like that, I'm happy. The goal is to be at the first in the overall, so winning a leg.
Out of 6 scoring legs, they've only been off the podium once, and after finishing second on the double points leg into Brazil, Dongfeng race team now top the overall rankings. A confidence boost just at the right time.
We are the new leader of the Volvo Ocean race. Of course, yes, it's very positive for us. It's fantastic. We need it because, of course, our energy was going down because we were always, many times ahead of them, many times close to win a leg and or not in a very good position and do a mistake and lost so much.
We are completely
At the end, it's a lot of frustration and it's difficult to keep the team together when you have a difficult moment like that and you are exhausted. So we are back on the lead and it's going to boost the team. But the pressure now is, as I said, the pressure was on Mark's shoulder. Now the pressure is back on us. And we are only, today we are only 1 point away. It's nothing.
A team built on a mix of Chinese rising stars and multinational offshore legends, Dongfeng race team spent the build-up to the race on the water learning together, something that gave them a strong start. Now the experience of the fleet has levelled, and with only one hand on the trophy, Charles Caudrelier knows there's still a huge battle ahead.
We are in a very good position to finish first or second, but as you say, the fleet is improving and we can maybe not be on the podium. It's so quick. You have an accident like Vestas 2 times, it's finished. You make a big mistake, you break something, it's finished. So pressure is going to be, and that's the pressure that we have to deal with. That makes the difference between a winner and a loser.
Well, my name's Andy Green. It's a real pleasure to bring you this amazing coverage that all the TV team have put together here in Itajaí and from the whole Volvo Ocean Race family. My thanks to the expertise and calmness of Sally Barkhouse sat next to me, and to Nick Bice for bringing us all the action down on the water. You can follow us on all our social media channels, on Facebook, like, share and comment, on Instagram for all those beautiful photos of yours and off the boats, with hashtag Life at the Extreme, and on Twitter at Volvo Ocean Race. And for more in-depth coverage, at Race Experts. Remember, you can download the app for all the latest action, and every day from HQ in Alicante, Niall and Conrad will be bringing us the Daily Show.
Leg 8 underway, a fantastic stopover in Itajaí. Now it's the turn of the Daily Show team and Race Control to pick up the reins. Let me talk you through what happens here in Race Control. From here, all the information from the boat, images, videos, news stories, sound bites, it all gets beamed to us and we bring the race to you. We are here to make sure the boats reach the finish line safely, but also to put you into the driving seats on the boat. Every day we've got our quick fixes coming from here, 0700 in the morning, and then 1300 UTC. We've got our daily show starting tomorrow, and we will see you then.
Yet another fabulous stopover here in Brazil. Now the fleet head north across the equator for the final time, with a new overall leader by just 1 point. It's all to play for. We say obrigado to Itajaí, and it's time to pick out your pastel pants, pop your collar. We're off to Newport, Rhode Island.